And we're back, and we just finished watching 2005's Constantine, based on the graphic novel by Garth Ennis and I guess Jamie Delano. The story is this film is directed by Francis Lawrence, and it tells the story of an exorcist slash demonologist named John Constantine who helps a policewoman prove that her sister's death was not a suicide, and also uncovers a nefarious plan between the angel Gabriel and the devil's son Manon. Impressions?
It was a suicide.
It was a suicide, right. Well, it was more than just a suicide.
There was a reason for it, but...
It was a suicide. You're right. I misspoke. It was a suicide, but there was more to it. The reason why Isabel did what she did had to do more with this bigger plot that was going on. Impressions. G, what did you think of the movie?
I've seen this movie before, so it's...
You could still have an opinion.
We've never discussed it before.
Yeah.
I know. It's just... Nah.
You don't like this movie?
I thought... ask someone else.
I enjoyed this movie. I liked it a lot. I know a lot of people were ticked off about this film because they took some liberties with the source material. That didn't bother me at all. It was still a good movie. I understand people getting upset if things aren't exact. Oh, he's not British. He's not blonde. Don't care. Yeah. I really don't care. Yeah. It was a good movie. Keanu Reeves did a great job. He played it as a weary noir detective. This was a noir movie that had a supernatural element to it.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you would have watched this film and not been so butthurt about the character being John Constantine, if his name was John Constantine,
yeah, it wouldn't have made a difference.
It would have been a good movie. You would have enjoyed yourself. Just seriously, sometimes people care about the wrong things.
Yes.
But I get it. If you fall in love with the character as it is, you kind of... Some things might bother you a bit. They may seem like arbitrary changes. But this was really well done.
Yeah.
It was really well done.
Too agree with you. I'm mad at myself because I let myself get swayed by someone's opinion, and we did not see this in the theater. And I wish we had seen it in the theater because this is a great film. There is some fantastic storytelling going on around in this movie. The script is tight. The art directions and set design is fantastic. The costumes are top notch. Everyone brings their acting A game, especially Keanu Reeves, who's an absolute revelation in this, and I think befitting of exactly how I would picture Constantine. I, too, am not one of these people that is so precious with my source materials. I feel like when you're taking something like a graphic novel and you're converting it into a film, there may be things that you have to do differently. And I don't think the changes that were made in the film in comparison to the graphic novel did anything to diminish the property, did anything to disrespect the property. If anything, it added this nice layer. And like you said, I think if you view this movie as sort of like a noir horror slash fantasy piece, it works. It works on all cylinders. It's an amazing piece of storytelling. It's a very simple script. Something bad's gonna happen and the hero has to come and save the day. But how you go from point A to point B is exactly what makes this film so amazing. And I do regret listening to somebody, and this is why I try not to listen to reviews now, or read reviews, or try to let them influence me, because what someone else dislikes might be something that you like. And I think this is a great lesson. And I think this particular movie is a great example of that, how sometimes you have to kind of give people leeways to create art. Graphic novels are completely different than movies. I mean, they're similar in a way because when you look at a graphic novel, it's basically storyboarding, right? To tell a story. But with movies, you have a limited time frame to tell your story. You have a limited budget to tell your story. You have actors that maybe are coming to the source material from a different vantage point. Maybe they have different hair, maybe they do the character in a different sort of vein, maybe it's more comedic or it's more serious than what's portrayed on the pages of the graphic novel, but it all works. And I think in this particular instance, it really, really worked. And unfortunately, the fanboys did this movie a disservice by not allowing it to...
They just didn't give it a chance.
Give it a chance.
I mean, yeah, there's like considerations to take into account. I mean, they wanted a name actor, so they got Keanu Reeves. He did a great job.
He really did.
You know, and I feel like this was sort of, this came out like before the Matrix movies or after the Matrix movies?
After. This is 2005. The first one, the first Matrix, I think, was 99.
Because around that time, he was still, Keanu Reeves' career has been a roller coaster.
Sure.
I mean, he's always had a certain level of popularity, but there was also a level of, oh god,
joke. He's a joke.
It's Keanu Reeves. His performances are so weird
and wooden
and whatever. But he did a great job with this. There's one thing that Keanu Reeves excels at, and it's not the surfer dude
Johnny Utah,
Bill S. Preston, or Ted, or whichever one he was. I get them confused all the time.
I think Bill is Alex.
He does weary well, and that's why this did so well, and why like John Wick does so well. And he can, when you see him in like something a little bit more serious, you see that.
Yes.
And so they wanted somebody with like some name recognition. It's geared towards an American audience. Honestly, I don't see why they would have a problem with setting it in someplace else other than Los Angeles. But none of these things hurt the character or the story.
More importantly, the story. Yeah. The story is still fantastic.
The story is still very good. I believe it was loosely based on a story from the comic book. I don't know why anybody would just let superficial issues taint them so much to deny them this. It was a good story. And the thing that's funny is that now that Keanu Reeves' career is once more on this upward trajectory, the John Wick movies, the fact that he is pretty much one of the nicest people on the planet.
Hollywood. And in the planet,
and like people know about it. Now people look more favorably upon this movie, to the point where like I remember reading or hearing somewhere that they were thinking of developing that like a Constantine show based off of the movie property.
Right.
And I know
because the NBC show, and you and I watched it, and
I really gave the NBC show a chance, and I did not enjoy it.
No, it was terrible. And even though that was more in line with what the fanboys wanted, it had terrible writing. The lead actor was just awful.
I wouldn't say he was awful. I would just say he did not have any kind of presence. Like it was just like, okay, snarky line. All right, exposition, snarky line. Exposition, snarky line. To me, he bored the hell out of me, and I guess that's because he was the focus of the show. I understand that now they shifted that character over to another television show on the WB, and it's...
Or CW.
CW. Sorry, I'm showing my age there. So for me, it'll always be the WB.
Yeah.
And UPN. And so now he's more of like a supporting character that appears every once in a while, and people like it. I haven't seen it. I'd be willing to watch it again just to give the dude a chance. Maybe he'll change my mind, but that Channel 4 show was awful.
Yeah, it was terrible. And not to get off on a tangent, but I promise I'll rein it in because I do have a point to make. This also ties back to, let's be honest, that last Star Wars movie was terrible. The one before that, the one that everyone says is awful, was probably the better one of the three that was released recently. No, and people need to... The first one was fine, but the second one was better. Rian Johnson's
I enjoyed how the second one was taking it in a new direction.
Yeah.
I mean, now we're talking about Star Wars.
I know, but listen... So, okay, let me just wrap this up really quick, because I know that we hate when we get off on a tangent.
Wait, in the Star Wars movie, it kind of made sense that they made that last one, the final one, because you would be stuck on edge. You wouldn't know if they won or not. It would just continue for centuries and centuries.
Listen, Star Wars is going to continue for centuries and centuries.
No, it won't.
Yes, it will.
It ended
No.
already.
They're making different stories. Trust me. There's always going to be a Star Wars. Exactly, like The Mandalorian. I think they're developing other properties. Yes, we are so far off topic.
Somehow Star Wars has entered into the Constantine realm.
Okay, but really quick, I have a point to make here. And the point I want to make is, I was just using that as an example because, let's be honest, you know I'm right about it. That last Star Wars movie was terrible.
Yeah, that was...
But the point that I'm trying to make is that sometimes fans are the best thing, but they're also the worst thing. And what I mean by that is that sometimes you kind of have to let things go. You cannot have this precious hold on your fandom and expect that everything adheres to what you want it to be. You have to kind of be open to filmmakers taking liberties and license with source material. If it's bad, sure, crucify it. But you cannot tell me that Constantine movie is bad, because it's not. It's 2020. That movie came out in 2015.
It's still
2005. And it still slaps. It's freaking good. It's good. Deal with it. That's all I want to say to the fanboys.
Well, here's the. I mean,
fanboys are stupid.
No, let's
dial it back.
Dial it back here, okay?
Constantine was good.
Fan comes from fanatic, okay? And that's the problem. A fan is somebody who likes a property, enjoys it, loves it. A fanatic is somebody who basically feels they own it. It's so precious and so dear that it has become
canon.
No, it's become
religion,
a fabric of their life. To the point where it's sort of like they believe that it belongs to them, and nobody
has the
better
right.
dare bring their interpretation of what belongs to me.
Right.
And that's the problem. They get so wrapped up in that they lose their mind. And Star Wars has been especially bad in that respect. I mean, I'm even talking about way back
when we were young.
No. I'm talking about like when the prequels came out.
Oh,
I remember, before there were things like forums and stuff, there was the news groups, and I remember one time I'm like, I'm gonna see a Star Wars news group. I went on a Star Wars news group. The most toxic nerds on Earth.
Yeah.
On Earth, you give one opinion, and they just want to. All they live to is to hurt you.
Yeah.
So screw that, fanatics. In any respect.
Yes.
When it comes to movies,
or
politics, life,
religion.
You suck, fanatics, and you need to go away. And the fact that the internet has given you such a loud voice that you could actually hurt properties with your fanaticism is horrible. Yeah. It is a horrible thing.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Moving on.
Back to this movie. We're getting off our soapbox now. But yes, I needed to get that off my chest because this movie did not do well, I think, in the box office, which is unfortunate because, again...
No, it didn't do well. I think it did better...
than expected.
No, I think it did all right. I don't think it broke any records. That's why there was never any plans for a sequel. But I think it did better in home viewing,
yes,
where people sort of
I think
people were able to give it a chance,
right? And I think that's
and over time it found its place.
And of course, this is not the first movie to have benefited from home box office watching, but I think if you haven't seen this movie, seriously, do yourself a favor. Just sit down and watch it. It's about 2 hours long. You will be entertained. And
it's pretty. It's
gorgeous. It's gorgeous. 2005 to 2020. There have been, what is that, 15 years? And yet it still holds up.
What's up, Bob?
Oh, go ahead.
It's not as pretty as that Avatar movie.
Well, that's just crazy.
That's different. That's like day-glow sci-fi. This is noir. This is noir. Noir is supposed to be black and dark, lots of shadows and contrast and stuff. Yeah. It's supposed to be mysterious.
And the other thing, let's talk about this movie as art. Seriously. A lot of kudos to Francis Lawrence, the director. A lot of the shots are just beautiful. I mean, there was a couple of them where I was just like, I need that still, and I need to hang it up in my living room because it is.
And the art direction, the depiction of hell.
The depiction of hell is outstanding. Yeah. Like one of the few movies that really, I feel like, nails it. Like when you go through those two scenes when they're in hell, it's like that is exactly what it looks like. The way they did the demons, the way they did the lost souls, like
everything
trying
burning,
to climb up. Just
but not on
everything.
fire. Everything
yeah, not
burning,
on fire, but not on fire, which I think was also a good interpretation. Because when you go to hell as a lapsed Catholic, which we all are, you believe in heaven and hell. Also, the dialogue in this, it's funny that you mentioned noir. It's very reminiscent of those noir movies that had like this impeccable writing in it. Like I still go back to old movies and just listen to them just for the dialogue. There's a great, again, tangent, but really quickly, Double Indemnity is one of my favorite noir movies. And the scene where Fred McMurray first meets Barbara Stanwyck, fantastic writing, unbelievable, still holds up. This movie was made, in the 40s, 50s? Amazing. Anyway, so this movie as well, just really solid script work, solid cinematography, solid special effects, solid set design, costuming, art direction, directing, everything. Music's fine. It didn't overdo it, right? I don't think.
Didn't overdo it. I mean,
some movies you watch and it's like, do we really need music here, kind of thing. But this was perfect.
It fit this. It fit the theme.
Every time I watch this movie, I get excited because to me, this is what good storytelling is. I know.
Olive, what did you think of the movie? I haven't really heard what your opinion of the movie was. What did you think?
Sorry. It was good.
Yeah. What did you like about it?
Was there any things about the story you liked, or the characters, or anything? Scenes? Were there any good scenes? Like you were like, ooh, what's going on here?
No.
No?
None of the scenes stuck out to you?
No.
No?
None of them.
Everybody's so
blasé. What about you, G? What'd you think of the film?
Have you formed an opinion yet? You said to come back to you.
Later.
I like this movie.
You do?
Okay.
Yes.
Was there any parts of the story you thought were cool or interesting?
I liked how hell was shown too.
You liked
the
the
depiction of hell.
You're as someone who's a voracious reader. Who it's funny, when my kid was little, she wasn't really into reading, and I think she became interested in reading through graphic novels and comic books. So what do you think? I mean, I know that you haven't specifically read Constantine, the graphic novel.
I've not read Constantine at all.
But would this movie make you interested in reading that?
Yeah.
Sort of like a stories about like detectives solving mysteries involving the supernatural. Is that an interesting subject?
Yeah.
I mean, most of the stuff you read now is fantasy, so. But would this specific piece make you kind of deep dive and maybe seek out other, or maybe go towards the source material to figure out the origin stories and stuff?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Was there anything about this movie that you liked besides the hell scene in particular? Were there any characters that you really liked? Was there a scene? Did you have like a favorite scene in the movie? No?
Not a lot of analysis of
Not an analysis here. I guess the kids are super tired.
We're not tired. It's just that.
They're making faces at each other and
messages.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess this is just you and me going to be talking about it.
You know what? Let's just wrap it up then.
Really?
Okay. So scale of 1 to 10.
Okay.
I'll give it an 8.
An 8. What about you, G?
Don't call it myself.
I know I was going to say Olive G, but
I'll give this an 8 too.
An 8?
Mommy?
I would give this an 8.5. I think it's almost a perfect movie. I don't know what would have made it almost a perfect movie. As much love as it didn't get when it first originally came out in 2005. There's so much here that is just very powerful. From the first scene, even like the title cards, you know how it like
Yeah.
Just all of that
effect on it.
all of that. The opening scene in Mexico, the next scene in Los Angeles where you see the possession
Of the little girl.
of the little girl, all of that. Everything in this movie, there is nothing wasted. There is no extras. There's no filler. It is a treat for the eyes. It's amazing storytelling. And again, just a simple, I mean, I'm sure I'm simplifying this, but to me, a simple story that really took you on this journey and immersed you into it. Like, after having watched this, part of me, even though I have no time, wants to deep dive into like books on the occult, because I find that subject horribly fascinating, but just don't have the time to really sit down and deep dive on it. But
Because
stuff
you're
like
too busy with work.
right, and other stuff, and you kids and whatnot. But besides that, I think this is another thing about really good storytelling. I mean, I've said this repeatedly. The thing about good movies is always in the story. And I think that's important, because when you have a great story that really brings in your audience, that entertains them, that makes them think, that engages them, that's where you want to be. But the added bonus to that is when your audience takes that away and into, I guess, their everyday, they decide, you know what, I'm going to deep dive into this. I'm going to look at maybe the graphic novel, maybe some other works that this director's done, maybe some other movies that these actors have been in. I think those components are awesome. And every time I watch this particular movie, I'm never bored, and I'm completely swept up in the story. And I always want more. That's the thing about this movie. It always leaves me wanting more. It leaves me wanting to see another Tilda Swinton movie, another Keanu Reeves movie, maybe pick up something that Garth Ennis has written. It just... Garth, sorry. I've always loved this movie. We've had this conversation, you and I. And again, I really, really regret not going to the theater and seeing this and being swayed by somebody else's opinion. And I just want my last thought to be, I think this is something I mentioned in a different review, but when you love something, love it. That's great. But also be open to it kind of being taken and made into something else. This wasn't a graphic novel. This wasn't disrespectful to the makers of it. I still don't understand the violent rage hate that people had about it, but it's a really great movie, and it's really great storytelling, and you do yourself a disservice by feeding into this ignorance that because it's not what you want it to be, it doesn't deserve to exist. So again, I would give this an 8.5. An almost perfect movie, elements of horror, fantasy,
and whatever else.
Noir, drama. Yeah, I wholeheartedly recommend this piece.
Okay, Daddy.
Yeah, I'd probably give it an 8.5 too. I really liked it. I thought it was
Oh my goodness.
well acted. I enjoyed all the characters. I enjoyed the way it looked. I thought the director did an excellent job. The cinematography,
he really
colors.
did a great job with the.
Yeah, I mean, I'm colorblind, and the colors look great to me. Everything looked good. The concepts of how the angels looked, Gabriel with her weird outfit, the fact that on
you know, it kind of looked like a cowboy suit
on her wrist she had all those like medical tags, which I'm guessing is sort of a reference to the fact that Gabriel is also seen as the angel of death.
One of them said sorrow, I think.
Oh really? I didn't even notice that.
I think.
Interesting.
But yeah, I mean, it just is a good looking movie, and the way the demons look with their weird bisected heads, you could see that they weren't like, they were never human. Their humanity was like if they were just like zombie looking things, you could see that they had sort of a soul or a personality, but they weren't. They were just machines for killing.
I liked how they had spindly limbs.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
skinny.
Yeah, everything.
Everything
like,
was
the design
the
work
creatures were
on those.
they were gone. And
Well, like those things in hell, their heads were just blown off.
It
Yeah.
looked like somebody had taken a shotgun and just.
well, it wasn't they weren't messy. It was like
Yeah, it
a,
was just
a slice.
smooth, right,
It was
yeah.
like somebody
Yeah,
had
it's a
bisected the top of their head off. And then
like
of course
with a sword.
there's Donatello Versace coming through at the end there. Mammon himself.
She
The
really
son
is
of
frightening.
Satan.
She is
That
really,
picture you
really-
showed me of her on a beach was like it had to have been
Terrifying.
the inspiration for Mammon approaching
It had to be. And
Rachel
she
Weisz
is.
in the bath. In the
Oh my
pool.
gosh, she is terrifying. Those crazy overdone orangutan butt lips, and her skin that's like jerky from being out in the sun.
Orangutan butt lips. I love that.
It's true though.
Butt lips has to be the new phrase.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Somebody start a punk band and name it that.
Butt lips.
Anyway,
Anyway, yeah, 8.5. To me, I really liked the Keanu Reeves performance in this. I enjoyed it more than his performance in The Matrix, which came out before this, and
it also wouldn't in a way, but
wouldn't,
it worked. It
but
worked.
he didn't have that weary thing down. In
No,
that, you know?
he definitely does it here.
This
which
he
is
does the weary noir detective, and you know what? Maybe it was so long since I'd seen a good sort of noir movie. Like
yeah.
the last time I saw films like that was in film school when we did like a small bit on film noir,
Yeah.
and
Film noir?
and you see like those old detective stories,
Yeah.
and they have like their certain elements. So there's the weary detective, the femme fatale, the double cross, the bad guy, everything.
Yeah,
It's really good. And this was that type of movie, and it was a while since I'd seen it, and it probably, even as I watched it, didn't register the type of film that it was because you think, oh, this is a comic book movie.
Right.
And this is before Marvel came around and was like really excelling at that, where they would take a comic book movie and mix it with a spy thriller or a heist movie or something like that.
Sure.
You know? This was a comic book movie that was a noir detective story, and I enjoyed it a lot.
It's fantastic. It really, I mean, again, don't take it from me. Invest the time in it. It's only 2 hours.
And if you are like this Constantine fanatic who's just bloodthirsty at the idea of a John Constantine from America with dark hair, just watch it as a noir movie. It doesn't have okay, he's not that John Constantine. All right, he's from Earth 617 or something.
Yes,
you know,
exactly.
You know, he's from somebody else in the infinite Earths. Okay?
And I bet if you looked in the
Keanu Reeves,
phone
John
book,
Constantine.
there's more than one John Constantine. So yeah, look at it that way.
Oh yeah, you know, it's not that John Constantine from the comic. It's a different one, and it's still a good one. Give it a chance.
Yeah.
Don't be.
Yeah,
so,
you'd be surprised at what you're missing.
Don't be such a zealot that you just hate on it for the sake of hating on it. Give it a shot. It's good. It's really good.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And with that, I guess we will bid everyone good night. Where did Kid 2 go? Somewhere. All right. I guess it's just the three of us signing off. Good night.
Night.
Okay. Say good night.
Good night!